they can't have ways to generate funding. In fact, they look to the towns that they designate as Main Streets to pay for the salary of the Main Street coordinator. So that wouldn't necessarily help you with regard to a long-term recruiting, long-term marketing program. Should the Chamber of Commerce do it? Well, there again, you're talking about a volunteer organization that isn't really structured. Yes, they collect dues, but it's not the kind of funding that they would need, that you would need them to have to be competitive with malls and shopping centers in terms of the recruiting and marketing efforts. For us, we think that the obvious answer that's left to you is the creation of a business improvement district. While it's too early to tell whether that's practical for you, we certainly recommend you do a feasibility analysis to see how it would work, how much money could reasonably be derived through an assessment on commercial properties in Nutley Township, and how would that match up with the tasks that you decide you would like to do and what they might cost to do. But that kind of analysis should happen because we think that that is the most sensible way for you to create a long-term structure with built-in funding that can do the kind of tasks that would put your retailers on a par with the shopping centers and malls that they're competing head-to-head with, and the other great districts, like Montclair, which, by the way, has a business improvement district. Next. Okay, I mentioned earlier that you have some really great and unique boutique retailers here in town. I was really excited to discover them. When it comes to stores, for example, everybody knows that Visa makes custom dresses, and she's right in the heart of Franklin Street. But did you also know that a woman named Chiara Reynosa makes her own handmade organic soaps and scents that she sells in a boutique also on Franklin? She's Chestnut. She moved to Franklin. She named her store after her daughter, Flavia, and that she draws people from a good 20 miles away who are fans of her products. So she's one of those small boutique retailers that is a destination store. That is what you really want. You want destinations that are bringing in lots of outsiders. Okay. That photo is a picture of Mark Matthews, who's the proprietor of Underground Skateboard, also on Frankfurt on the lower end. And while he started out to service the needs of people in their teens and mid-20s with skateboards, he quickly learned that what his customers were looking for was a social experience. So he moved into a larger storefront. He created a social space for them where they could come in and play video games while they were shopping. The typical shop visit for his customers is about 2 hours. They come there, they play video games, they socialize with each other, and they buy lots of stuff because they talk to each other about, oh, did you see the t-shirts that you just got in? And that, by the way, is another thing. What started with skateboards has branched out into accessories, clothing, the kinds of hip clothing that skateboarders like to wear, and now footwear. He's got a whole wall of different types of footwear for skateboarders. So you can have clothing, you can have shoe stores provided for specialty, and he too is drawing people from a wide radius. Okay, Don Bursack, the Curious Shopper, another unique store that not only offers the goods but also decorating service. Tony, the AJ's Woodwind Repair on Chestnut. He can fix your clarinet. How many, do you know of anywhere, any place anywhere outside Manhattan where you have to take a musical instrument and get it repaired? Well, the artists from Manhattan come here to Tony to get their stuff repaired. So he's a destination business. I mean, there's a slew of them. Same thing with restaurants. You've got several interesting restaurants. They would do better if you had even more. If you had more of a mix, more interesting, more diverse choices. And if they were kind of clustered together so people could see that, wow, we've got a terrific series, it's like a restaurant row, then they would do better. So these are things you can look for. Next slide, please. Also, you can talk about creating events. In order to get those people who are living in the 5-mile radius, you've got to get them to come into Nutley and try it on a trial basis. And the best way to do that before you have a great retail mix is by offering interesting events that they would like. And when you do events, you want to make sure you attract diverse groups of all different ages so that in the warm weather months, you're trying to do something every other week if you can. So that one week, maybe you got the joggers and bikers, another week you got the young families, you're reaching out to seniors a different week, you're reaching out to whoever you can, people who are interested in history, people who like to come out to outdoor music, concerts, and there again, you get all the different age groups, depending on the type of music that you offer. All of those things are ways to get people to come out. That photo is of the May Fair in Collinsville. That's down my neck of the woods in Camden County. They're a small community. They have a smaller population than you do, and that they draw 15,000 people on the weekend for their May Fair every year. And they close off the street to do it. The good news from Nutley is you wouldn't have to close off the street, because we think you've got a great advantage of things, and we'll talk about that. So on to long-term, you can actually hit it twice. And that's what long-term things to do. Number one, I'd like to see you go back and do a little more zoning tweaking. I think Nutley could really benefit by having a design standard here that would tell commercial property owners and merchants here that this is the kind of look that we're trying to effectuate. If you're going to bring a new store in, if you're going to redo your facade, it should match up with these. It should use these materials. Use a canvas awning rather than a vinyl awning, for example. Use this color palette if you can. Use this style of lettering among several choices. Again, not to get uniformity. You do not want that. Uniformity is monotony, and that's deadly. You want harmony. You want things to look like they belong together so that the whole stretch of your downtown feels like one big happy place that all belongs together and everyone wants to try out all of it. The design standard will help you with that. You already do a lot of blade signs, which is good. One thing you want to look at prohibited in the future in your downtown area is setbacks of buildings, drive-throughs, and things like that, because that interferes with the pedestrian walkway. If you want to have a drive-through bank, don't put it in the downtown area. Put it outside of the downtown area. Don't have parking in front of the store, because that interferes with the whole walk, browse shopping experience. It interrupts it and makes people give up on things. So those kind of things. So again, we can talk at length in the report about zoning and things we recommend. Next slide. The idea of the picture of that slide was when you create a design standard, you want to make sure that you speak to how the display windows should be transparent, you should be able to see into the store, at least see some depth into the store, see a good display that is inviting to the passerby, that you should be permitted to have your name on the window, but little else. You shouldn't be able to clutter your window with lots of paper signs that obscure the view. You should be entitled to have a band sign up in the upper band of the storefront, and you should have a projecting blade sign, which I now acknowledge you allow those, but we should encourage them, and we should maybe incentivize them to do this, because it creates a charm and a familiarity, and doesn't that look inviting? You can see into the store like that, and see a nice display, just makes you want to enter the store. Have it. Okay, next. Again, tribute to you, you do now allow that I understand is going to be the first blade sign under the new ordinance. Okay, you can go on to the next slide. Other infrastructure that you want to improve, though, not just the blade signs, very, very important. This is going to be a critical investment that I encourage you to make. Maybe if you form a bid could use some of their funds to do this, but to create signage that would guide visitors off the highways and from other major roads from nearby towns into Nutley's downtown. And then once you get them into the downtown, guide them to the parking lots that you want them to use. I know you have signage for parking lots on Franklin Street. It's not as effective as it could be. And you could do a more effective job. And you could direct people from the various directions that they're coming into, not just last minute, turn here. Guide them a few blocks in to those parking lots if you want them to use that. And also have some signage in the downtown, much like mall signage, that is a directory, so that people can look and check and say, that restaurant that I wanted is 2 blocks up on the right. So, they can check for pedestrians as well as for drivers. Okay, next. Now, here's what I was getting at. You wouldn't necessarily need to close the street to have great events. The Oval is a point of great pride, but it's also a point of consternation when it comes to retail shopping in Nutley, because it is one of those gaps. In fact, it's probably one of the biggest gaps, that the football field combined with the public schools adjacent to it create this huge interruption of commerce on Franklin Street. Now, my partners and I had considered all sorts of things to try to overcome the gap created by the Oval. Originally, we had looked at things like, gee, could we create overbuild of retail restaurants, maybe one or two restaurants, above the bleachers of the stadium at the Oval? But it wasn't practical. I mean, yeah, you could do that, but there wouldn't be any way to service them from the rear, which you really need to do for a restaurant. So we abandoned the idea of overbuild, and then we started to look at, okay, how can we make the Oval part of the downtown experience? How can we make the Oval a place that would attract visitors to want to come to Nutley, and then while they're here, go to nearby commerce? Well, you activate it and make it a place where you can have family fun days, or outdoor concerts, or even carnivals, bringing it in there. The school district would probably, think when we're talking about doing things like this on the football field. But I think it's things you have to look at, you have to consider, and you can do more than just those very traditional things, very standard things that I think would fit in very nicely and easily with the character of Nutley. Next, now let me get into more awesome things that maybe a little out there. We think ice skating rinks in the wintertime are a terrific thing. They're coming back. For the longest time, the towns were afraid to touch them because of the insurance requirements, but they have rebounded. And all those photos are an ice skating rink that we helped bring into Glassboro, New Jersey. The town that beat you out in terms of survey count. Well, they went for our suggestion, and they got a temporary ice skating rink. They put it up in a large parking lot next to the Barnes & Noble, which you see behind the skater there, that we helped recruit for them. And it is a very popular place during the winter months. So people can go and skate. I think that would be a neat option for you. You could set it up, and it's the kind of thing people like to do in the evenings, and you light it up. And man, that could stimulate some of your stores and restaurants to stay open later and, support one another. Next, please. It also looks really great, and that view that you have of the skating rink is the kind of view you get here from Franklin Street. You get to look down, you're able to see that it would be beautiful. This one is also a growing popular item. Have any of you ever been to a Christmas village? There are a few of them now in Manhattan. This one, all these photos are from the Christmas Village in Philadelphia. And from Thanksgiving Day to Christmas Eve, they're open every day. And they have vendors in there in the stalls. And they sell food, and they sell imported German goods, and they sell local goods. And your own merchants can set up their own stalls and have some of their own goods in there. And they attract people like crazy. It can take 1 or 2 years to stimulate the good crowd, but once you're set up, man, people flock there. The most popular item is the mulled wine. They sell hot red wine with spices in it. Wonderful Christmassy seasoning kind of treat. And of course, hot sausage, and it's just a really thing that has caught on in a big way in a number of communities. And I think that would be a great thing to put in the Oval all December long. Right up until Christmas, and it would really stimulate support for your merchants and get them to stay open too. And there are urban societies that support those things. I mean, you can reach out to them and get that. They will set it up, they will run it. You don't have to get terribly involved. Just you provide the setting and cooperate with what they need. Okay, sorry, next. Okay, now let's get really crazy. This is called Holi. It is a festival that originated in Asia, in Pakistan, I think, in India, and it is now something that's popular in Europe and even in parts of the United States. But I think the biggest Holi, and that's not holy as in holy, it's an Indian word, Hindu word. It just means festival of color. It's a happiness kind of thing. People just throw colored powders on one another all day long. And they have music going and food, and it's just a fun gathering. Think of it a little like our Burning Man. The biggest one in the States is out in Utah, of all places. You would think that would be a very conservative state, and yet they have the biggest holiday festival in the States. You've got a big open area there, and you could actually handle something like this and imagine what kind of news that would get. But I realize that could be far afield for you. Let's try another. Here's something that's a little closer to the ethnic makeup of Nutley. This community is a strong Italian-American community. And there is a festival in Italy called Infiorata that is celebrated in many towns in northern Italy. And it just means, flower. It does tie to a religious ceremony. Yours wouldn't necessarily need to, unless you wanted to. But the point is, you get college students, who are art students, to come in, they design these interesting designs on large scrolls of paper, they lay it out on the ground. You get volunteers to crush flowers by color. So obviously there's an investment. You need sponsors to help you with buying into this and getting the flowers and getting volunteers to separate the petals into in baskets of colored petals, and then they create the images on the ground. And it just draws thousands of people who love to see something. It's unusual, it's distinctive, and it's a perfect outdoor kind of thing. And it's done in a day, but the festival goes on all week. So you could have Infiorata celebrations during the week, and then on the Saturday morning they create the image and party with it all day. Okay, all right. Coming back to Earth, here's something you could do that would also be really stimulating. I don't think anyone in this region is doing this, and that is laser light shows. Lots of communities do fireworks as a way to attract people into their downtown and get them more interested in businesses. That can be expensive, and it's difficult to manage with any kind of frequency. But laser light shows can be equally stimulating visually, equally interesting. They can be modified easily over time to fit specific things you're trying to say or different holidays you're trying to celebrate. And they are just, real crown creatures. You can attract people from a wide region. If you offer a laser show once a month in the summertime, and brought in a company to do it, and there are plenty of companies out there that do these things, you can do projections from the Oval onto the buildings, this municipal building and the other municipal buildings around the firehouse. You could do it onto the school building on Franklin Street, and you could just do things in midair. So it would be a real interesting way, and it's not expensive. And it'd be very distinctive. And you can tie in your commercial buildings along Franklin Street and the other commercial corridors by doing facade wash lighting. Light them all up in red or green or purple, because this is the week that we're doing the laser light show. And we want everybody to know it. And there's lots of interesting ways to tie in. The point is of all this, I realize that a lot of us probably feels like, what the hell is he talking about? We would never know that. And that's fine, I understand that. I'm really trying to throw some ideas at you and let you understand that you're not bound by anything. You've got a wonderful venue out here where you could stage an event that would be visible to hundreds of people, if not thousands, that be participated in by hundreds or thousands of people. It's a great location, and it just happens to be in the center of your downtown. So it would be a perfect way to get people excited about coming to Nutley, being comfortable with being in Nutley, realizing that Nutley is a pretty cool place. And oh, by the way, aren't there stores and restaurants here too? Yeah, let's try them out. So that's the idea behind activating the Oval, so that instead of being an obstacle to your retail businesses, it becomes a real asset without taking it away from its basic purpose to the school district. So that's what we have. We're real close on the end here. I know you must be tired of hearing me go. We also think it's very important that you proactively recruit the retailers that you need. If you leave things to chance, you'll continue to get what you're getting now, which is an imbalance. If you get proactive in it, you'll get what you want by your choice. How do you do it? Next slide. By specifically recruiting them. You now know what the categories are that you are missing and that you could support that have unmet demand. We can identify specific retailers within those categories that fit your infrastructure, fit your, be good co-tenants for the retailers that you have, all of that. And then you create a set of marketing materials specifically for Nutley. You're looking at examples we created for other communities